Hello, I'm with Les Durant with Objects and Orbs on Talk Honor to Me.
Hey, how are you?
This is the day you speak. Dates that we're dealing with.
Hello, Les. How you doing? Do you hear me?
Yes.
Oh,
How are
sorry.
you?
Yeah, I'm good. Um, it's good evening to talk paranormal. I know we talked way longer than I normally talk with people, but we just kind of got in on a roll there before the podcast. But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I'm
Sounds
sure
good.
there's
It's good.
plenty more to talk about. So
Yeah. I'm excited.
cool. Yeah, we'll jump right into it. What kind of got you into this, the whole paranormal experience kind of thing? Was there that singular point, or you just grew up in it? Like I have a bunch of different answers from bunch of different people. Everyone's a little different. So
Yeah. I was in Texas, and my dad had a car lot, and behind it was trailer, some old trailers, and I figured I'd go out there and kind of play around in it. And I went out there one time, and I was just kind of messing around and heard some stuff behind me, and then just kind of had that feeling that something was watching me, and so I got out of there. That was pretty much the one time that I had an experience. And then fast forward 2016, I met my wife, who I knew when I was a kid. I met my wife, and she came to a radio station I was working at, and I told her, I said that I've been getting these little peekaboos or little shadows looking in on me, and I thought it might have been my wife that passed. She said, "Oh, well, I used to be an investigator up in Idaho." And I said, "All right, what did you do? What kind of equipment?" She said, "I just use my phone." I'm like, how'd you do that? And then she was telling me about EVPs. And so that was something that we started, was EVPs. And we got a lot of good responses, even at the radio station I was working at. It was a Spanish station at one time, and we have an EVP of a spirit saying "Que pasó," and that was really cool. And then we just kind of got into watching just different paranormal shows, and we kind of decided that we wanted to maybe try it. And then after that is when we came to Georgia, and to find out about the Chastain House. And we were very excited about that too, and had a chance to go in there, and that's really kind of how I started with that.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like that video and quite a few others are on your channel. So,
Yes.
kind of what got you into doing that channel, which is Objects and Orbs, right? That's what we
Yeah,
that's the
objects
name
and
of it.
orbs. Yeah. And the
Yeah.
reason why
So
it's called objects and orbs is because objects like UFOs, and orbs, of course, spirit energy, which we know. And I had I was in the room at Chastain House, and I was kind of down by a doll, one of those triggers. There's a little doll. There's like four spirits: Sarah, Alice, Ruth, and Rose, and there were kids up, and they like to wreak a little bit of havoc. And my wife had her phone out. She said, "I'm seeing tons of orbs." And when you look at the video, you can kind of see what she's seeing. And I said, "You're seeing orbs?" And she said, "Yeah, I'd never really seen them before." And so then after I started watching that, I was just amazed. And then all of a sudden, things were going on with Ricky. He's the caretaker of the house. The orb started going into his phone, and he started getting all these notifications, and they just started going off. And we had bought some equipment. We got a spirit talker, or a spirit box. I'm sorry, a spirit box radio, and I got a K2 meter, or not a K2. I'm sorry, I got a tri-field meter, and just a few other little things, and set them up. And then we were getting nice responses. The interesting thing about Chastain House is when you get there, you would think it's kind of a somber thing because these kids were killed there, but they don't know that they're dead. So they're kind of
right.
playful. So when you go up there, there's a lot of toys everything up there, and they can do some crazy stuff up there. I've got them talking on the spirit box as well, and then we don't really have anything moving around other than the orbs, and that's
Right.
probably something that I really like. Ricky's phone was just going nuts to the point where he was taking it off and everything. And then I went back and looked at my video, and you could see these orbs jumping over each other, going into his phone, and that's just awesome. So then after that, I just decided, hey, I think we should, maybe try to do a few more investigations and see what we come up with. And that's kind of how the channel started.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that's I mean, pretty interesting story on just the Chastain house, but
Yes.
any other crazy investigation stories or anything? Like what's your wildest experience you've had so far while doing these investigations?
Yes. Okay. So I use Spirit Talker app, and a lot of people don't like it because they say that there could be these words that are put into it, or it could hear different things. So, but I've always had good experience with it. So one night I kept getting this word Gary. I just, Gary's here, Gary's here. Then one time I got the word poltergeist. I'm like, okay. And then I said, who's a poltergeist? And then it said Gary. I'm like, all right, Gary, if you're such a poltergeist, why don't you go ring those chimes on and this is outside on our deck. Sure enough, ching, 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 they were going off. We're like, all right, that's really cool. Thank you, Gary. We really appreciate it. And Gary, can you stop it? Yeah, they stopped. So we're like, all right. Well, one day, my wife, we were going to go down to Helen, Georgia for our anniversary, and it's really cool, Germantown. And we were going to go down there. My wife went to go get her debit cards, could not find them. I'm like, okay. So she was freaking out to the point she was crying. And we went to Walmart to look for them. We went back to the house. And then I said, well, honey, don't worry about it. Well, let's just get on the road. You can send the money to my card. Well, I get into my wallet and my card's gone too. And I'm like, oh. And then she's like, She said, we need to get out the Spirit Talker and see what we can find out. So we turned it on and said, hey, we need some help. First thing it says is, I like talking. I'm like, all right. And the next thing, can't breathe. All right, what's up with that? Desperate, concern, right? Because we were looking for the card and money. Then it said, keep going. Then it asked me what my name was. Well, then it said, right. And my wife had kind of looked over into these towels, and she's like, what's over here on the right? And she pulls it up. Sure enough, they're inside those towels. Sure enough. Right there. Then we said, okay, who is this? And then it said, I worked here. Like, all right. Then I said, can I get a name? And it said, Williams. Like, all right. Then Gary. I'm like, oh, Gary, hey, what's going on, Gary? The poltergeist. And then it says, you're misinterpreting me. Like, all right, well, we're like, sorry. I mean, the poltergeist is just somebody who moves. It's not scary or anything like that. Then it said, died very recently. We're like, okay. And then village. Well, the word village comes up a lot because we live on this mountain not too far from a Native American land where there's a stone circle out there too. So we get this settlement a lot, village, that kind of thing. So I said, you know what? I'm just gonna look up Gary Williams and just see. Now, I don't know if you said where I'm from. I'm from Mineral Bluff, Georgia. That's where I'm at. So I look up Gary Williams. Well, guess what? Gary Otis Williams, 80, of Mineral Bluff, passed away peacefully on May 16, 2022. And it said on the Spirit Talker, it said died very recently. I'm like, oh. There's also another word on there called Enid. I'm like, what's up with Enid? Well, his wife's name was Edith. So, we're thinking, well, maybe that's it. Now, we got the word Edith quite a bit on the Spirit Talker too. And so we think that they're paired up. The other thing that really gets it for me is that he worked in the mining department as a mining captain, and they also worked for the mine rescue team. Well, the second thing down is can't breathe, and we get that a lot. can't breathe. And there's the Berbera copper mines where people have died in there too, just very nearby. So I would have to say that right there was a home run, probably one of my best events that happened. That really got it for me right there, and that's kind of solidified it. Now, and I did have another little event happen too, to where we got names again and somebody who had recently passed away in the area. So with that, I'm a big believer in Spirit Talker, and I've seen it work before too. And then, but I like to use a spirit box, but sometimes it's kind of hard to understand for people. I do want to try the Estes method. Have you ever done that?
Refresh it for me and everyone else. I know the method,
yeah,
but I can't remember.
The Estes method is where you take the spirit box and you put on some headsets,
Right.
and then you're also blindfolded. So somebody's asking the questions, and you're saying what you hear. So that's going to be my next thing, because the spirit box is, it's not like an app or anything like that. And I even have a video of a spirit box saying my name. I think you said your name too, I think. But I had one that says Les, which is kind of cool. And that, I would say those are probably my favorite things. And then Chastain House is awesome too. But, and I like it where
I would like,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'd like to go back to the Spirit Talker app that you're using.
Yes.
I want to.
Sure.
You had mentioned before, and I'd like you to be able to say this too, and for people who are probably like, oh, those are apps, you got to watch out for them. You use devices that are airplane mode or don't have service at all when you use that product. So you are trying to limit the variables that could be at play with those kind of apps.
Exactly.
I know a lot of people would probably say, it's an app, it's connected, it's listening to what you're saying, and all that stuff. And you are actively trying to, eliminate as much of that doubt as possible. So.
And I also have, let's see, I've got 4 old Samsung phones that I use, the silver ones, and I've got another Samsung phone too that's doesn't have service. So I use a bunch of different phones for my investigation. Some for video, some for the Spirit Talker as well. So sometimes I'll lay 3 of them out, and a lot of times I can put words together and make sentences with them. I had one even today before I got on the air that sounded like somebody had committed suicide, and it said that something about his life cut short or something, and then it said I did it or something, and then it said sorry. I'm like, well, you don't have to be sorry. I mean, it's one of those things that you did or whatever. But yeah, that's I love that. Plus, I get orbs whenever I videotape the Spirit Talker, and my K2 meter and the tri-field meter all at the same time. So if you watch some of my videos and slow them down, you'll see orbs coming out and affecting the Spirit Talker, which is kind of cool. But that's something that And the other thing that I really like overall, even that gives me pleasure for all of this, is whenever I can introduce a non-believer and turn them into a believer. And I have some that have turned into major believers to where they've even downloaded Spirit Talker themselves and get stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool, and it's a really interesting story. To kind of hit on all those words and the name, giving you such a precise name and stuff. That's pretty cool. So I have another question I usually ask, and this is more of a perfect scenario. Money's not an issue, travel's not an issue, timing's not an issue. You got one place that's just your bucket list investigation in the whole world.
Yep.
Where would it be?
I think it's going to be Waverly Sanatorium in Kentucky.
Yeah, Waverly Hills. Yeah.
Yeah, Waverly
Okay.
Hills. Yeah, yeah. I know my wife wants to go there pretty bad too, and I think that's going to be pretty intense. You know, you probably had those times too where if you know that the place may have evil entities, you don't take time to set up. You take your stuff ready to go and start recording as soon as you get in there. You know, and that's something that I do. And I have had instances to where I had a client say, hey, there could be two different people in this back room. They're both not supposed to be in there. And I even had one turn off one of my tri-field meters, and you can see the orb going into it and just shutting it right off. And if you look, you can see the battery on there too. And that one, I went back and looked at my full spectrum video camera, and I slowed it down quite a bit, and you can see something with eyes just come down, and you know, as well as I turned to go into that room. So that was pretty intense as well. But overall, yeah, I would say Waverly and you know, that place would be awesome. I think Queen Mary would be cool too. I've heard quite a bit about Queen Mary. That would be awesome.
Yeah, actually, there was someone else on a previous episode that picked Queen Mary. I totally agree. Waverly Hills is one we want to go to as well.
Yeah.
Back to your question, back to your statement about, you know, especially evil entities or any entity really that you know is there. You want to get in there as quick as possible, start doing it, not having to set up as much. I know with my group and then other groups I've talked to, I think I want to say Soul Sisters I talked to in a previous episode, and some others have mentioned it too, but they'll put out a digital recorder immediately. As soon as they walk in, they've got it running, and then they can set up and stuff like that. Because at that point, you know, a lot of that stuff gets captured as soon as you get in there, because that energy changes. You're disturbing the environment. So they're more likely to probably to come through and start talking as you're just, you know, sitting around getting ready to investigate or getting stuff ready. So yeah, I definitely set up quite a few things when we first get in there. And yeah, I do. I have so many charging bays in my house that I have to have stuff charging. So when you walk in before an investigation, you'll see like 15 things charging in different spots. It's insane. But it's battery life, man. It's especially with ghosts when they like to drain them. We had a place in Savannah we went to, and at one time we had 3 GoPros that were running just as our, you know, point of view cameras. And then we had a 4th camera on a tripod that was actually running to power. All 3 GoPros died at the same time, even though there was 2 hours left of power in each one off a 4-hour battery. One of which the SD card gave an error first, and then it crashed. The other 2 crashed all at the same time. You know, it's like, okay, well, that, you know, maybe they were just because they were all charged at the same time. Maybe that's just how it happened. I'll give people that if they want to believe that. That's fine. But the 4th camera, which was plugged into power, so it couldn't necessarily die, started changing colors on the screen at the same time. So purple, yellow, red, blue. It just kept cycling through these colors just randomly. And then like a few minutes later, it was back to normal. Worked perfectly fine. So it was very strange that all that happened at the same time. So
yeah, when I was in, that reminds me of Chastain House. So my wife's phone that she was using at one time, I don't know if this was the second time we went there, but I'm going to say the kids, the girls, I think were messing with it, because same thing happened to her SD card, to where it crashed, and to the point where it became read-only. And and so she had some problems with it too. So I know exactly about that. And I've seen, there's been times, you know, I've had all my stuff charged up, and I go. In fact, one of the last investigations we did, I think the Miller House in Mineral Bluff, I took my cameras, and both of them, I charged them up full, got them out, nope, and they were dead. Yeah,
we did a jail. Probably it was quite a few months ago, but we were in a jail in Tennessee, and I had 3 Phantom or Phasm light cameras, full spectrum cameras, and all 3 were there. We set them to run. I think I got maybe 13 minutes of footage through the whole night. They all just sapped and died, and I'd swap out the batteries, and within maybe 20 minutes they would die. And like they're not the greatest batteries, but they usually last at least a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And for them to die within like 15, 20 minutes each time, and I'd have other batteries charging, I'd swap them out and just kept doing it. So yeah, we had like 13 minutes of footage from that whole night. It was brutal. And
Wow.
what really
Yeah.
sucked was, and one of our cameras was looking up a staircase, and we had a laser grid there, and it's one of the laser grids that has a screen that if something passes the laser grid, it shows whatever passed through it. So you'll see, like,
Yeah.
you put your hand through it, you'll see your fingers and all that stuff go through. And so we were all out of that area, and me and the guy I was walking in, Swisher, one of the guys on the team here, we were walking in to go up those stairs to do an investigation or check out those two rooms up there at the top. So there's no one up there already. There's no one up in the stairwell. No one's up in those two rooms. We're in a room next to the room that leads to that staircase.
Yeah.
And as we're in there, we hear the laser grid go off because it makes noise. So I was like,
Yeah.
sweet, something just triggered the laser grid. We've got this thing on camera, because we had the camera right on the laser grid and it could see up the staircase. So if anything passed through the laser grid, we would see it and we'd see what it was on the screen. Get in there, camera's dead.
Oh no!
So frustrated. So
Yeah.
frustrated. So now we have power bricks that we attach to the
Okay.
stand that the cameras are on, just to give
Yeah.
a little more backup to the camera. It
Excellent.
seems to work. Our last investigation, we actually deployed those, and it ran all night, no problem. So
That's great.
which we're hoping that'll continue. Hopefully they can't pull all the power off that thing. They might, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah, I've had, and you might have even had this too, to where it'll say drain, like even on Beer Talker. Just today it said drain, and then you can watch them go down. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like, yeah, you have a couple, just to be ready to go. But yeah, I've got some that are similar to that, and have had that happen too. And gosh, it's like, oh man, I had some great stuff on there too, and it's like it's gone.
So one thing I've been trying in some of our investigations is actually doing. So I have a battery backup. It's so it it'll last a long time. And I keep it at the house for safety stuff too. So if the power goes out in the house, I have this thing. It's only like that big, but it's a battery, and it's powerful. So I rigged that up with 2 wireless phone chargers.
Okay.
To kind of give a readily available stream of energy that hopefully they can draw off of to manifest. And so that's the theory. So we've been kind of introducing that and seeing if we can get some kind of activity using that. It might be, I might need to get more in depth with something that helps them draw a little easier than that. But the wireless chargers, I mean, they're readily on and ready for you to pull power. The phones you put on there, it automatically starts charging. That's why I use that first. But we might have to do some additional electrical work to make some sort of device that's even easier to access.
Yeah.
But anything to try to get more manifestations so we can get more evidence is good. And that's in the paranormal realm. It's a lot of there's a lot of innovation that people kind of don't look at. They might just not even think about it when they think about ghost hunt. They just think people just run around, and it's like the Blair Witch Project, where it's like, oh my God, what was that? And the camera's pointed this way. And it's like, what is that over there?
Right.
Kind of thing. But it's not. There's a lot of scientific stuff that goes on, a lot of ingenuity, a lot of innovation on trying to find new ways to just get evidence to prove that this stuff
bring
is
that
real.
up. So I have the mounts that I use are actually door hinges, and I've got Velcro on both sides, so they kind of fold up, and I can go like that, or and I can aim them up to the sky whenever I'm UFOing as well. But so one day I set it up to where I've got my camera I got a camera filming another camera to where you can see the dust going into the screen, or going into the light. And then if you look on the other side, you'll notice there's no orbs. You won't
Right.
see orbs because people say it's dust. Well, no, you're not seeing it over here, but you do see the dust, but nothing like that. So that way, that kind of just proves that dust orb thing that I've been kind of going round and round on that. I don't know, people say that all the time, but that's the kind of evidence, especially that I like to provide. And so with that, I'm all about the science as well. I like to be able to get different points of view and put things on. And something I've started to use is security cameras. Because they've got the night vision on them, and I've gotten a lot of good evidence just on that as well. And so those, and they're pretty easy to do, So and that's something that I really like, and I'm able to do a couple of them, and I've started to do that. But yeah, this is just so much fun. I really enjoy it, and it's once again, it's fun bringing people into it that are that are interested in it, and that's kind of the thing too.
All right. Well, what does the future hold for you and your channel, especially? You have any big plans coming up? You got a big 2023. You still have things you're doing in 2022, that kind of thing. So
yeah. So I do. I'm trying to get more paranormal investigations under my belt. But right now I'm going through old footage that I have and trying to figure out what I haven't put together. I'm focusing now on my UFO stuff. I had a gentleman reach out to me who is a documentary filmmaker who wants to use some of my footage and also some of my screenshots. So I'm excited about that. I've got a bunch of UFO videos that need to be processed that, tons. And then I've been posting them on Facebook and getting lots of views back to my channel, and also lots of likes on there too. So that's really exciting. I've got
that's
a
the
video about. Oh, go ahead.
I say that's the what would you say? It's the unseen work that doesn't get the credit it deserves, is the hours and hours of footage
Yes.
times like 10, because you only investigated for 7 hours, but you've got cameras running all 7 hours. You've got digital recorders running most of that time. You've got devices running that time. So you got to watch every single bit of footage. You've got to listen to every single second of audio, and like some shows gloss over that, don't even talk about it. Some shows do. I know Ghost Hunters was really good about at least saying, yeah, here we're gonna have to go through all this footage and kind of seeing how much of a pain it was. But
Right.
Other places don't even talk about it, and it's like that's like 90% of the investigation. Really, is the next
exactly.
days to weeks it takes to dig through all that stuff.
And one of my last videos for the Miller investigation in Mineral Bluff, I discovered 2 EVPs within like seconds of each other. And the crazy thing was I was just telling her about EVPs, and that I didn't really do them as much anymore because I kind of moved on. But then I picked up the EVPs on the cell phones, and I was like, wow. I've got one saying help me. I've got one saying they can't hear us, something like that. And it's like that's icing on the cake, really. I mean, that's kind of put it on a best of reel, really. But those are just so much fun, and I'm looking forward to doing that. And I like doing a little bit of both. I really want to go on more investigations. I want to be in a team as well. I think that would be great to get some people up here. I think this area up here is good for paranormal. There's a lot of UFO sightings up here. There's a lot of Bigfoot sightings up here. There's a lot of paranormal ghost stuff happening up here. And I like also setting some people at ease if they think that they have something at their house, to say, it's probably not. It's probably not malevolent. But if you can live with it, that's fine. If you don't want it around, well, we can go from there. And people seem to really enjoy that, and they really appreciate it too. And that's just something cool. And one thing that I really like as well is when we watch different shows and different podcasts and see what we believe in and say, oh, yeah, there we go. It's right there. They're using the same equipment we do. They're getting the same things we do. So it's not just something we're getting and we're trying to quote unquote prove ourselves. And sometimes it's like that. I don't know if you ever feel that way. It's almost like you have to kind of prove it. But but when we get it done, I always like to show stuff that, I try to debunk things myself first before I put it out there. I want to put out something and have it be debunked and, kind of go from there. But I do like feedback as well too. And that's something as well. But yeah, it's such a fun thing to do. I would say, it's a hobby, but also when sometimes people are distraught and they want to know that there is something else that they can look forward to or they can do. And, the other thing that I wanted to just touch on really quick, I don't know if you've ever come across this or not, but if you show your footage to certain people, especially like if I do the UFOs or even the ghosts, people look at me kind of weird and they're kind of like, because of a belief system. And I say, well, I look at it this way. God created the heavens and the earth. So he created everything. And that's kind of the way I look at it that way. So there's a reason for everything. We might not always know the reason, but we as paranormal investigators and scientists, we want to find out more about it just so, we can present it.
Yeah. Awesome. So we know YouTube, it's Objects and Orbs.
Yes.
Do you have any other social media right now? Any like Facebook or Instagram or anything like that you've got? Or
I've got one called IPG Paranormal in IPG Paranormal, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
That I've started on Facebook. I haven't really started that group yet. IPG is Island Productions Group. It's from when I used to live overseas, and I used to make these movies and stuff when I was a kid, into these old Super 8 films and stuff. But so I just kind of kept the IPG, and that's kind of what I call it. And that's really about it. If I spend time in social media, that's I'm at. But I'm really enjoying getting back into Facebook and posting things, and I'm getting a lot of just fantastic response. So that makes me feel really good to know that what I'm doing is valuable.
Yeah, and the paranormal community is pretty strong community now, and there's a lot of people that want to help and want to bounce ideas off of. So it's a good community to be a part of. So definitely start to get yourself into that community more and network a lot with these groups. I've seen a lot of good reception from the different pages and everything else from people and that. So definitely want to get out there and just talk to the other people, see what's working for them, and all that fun stuff. Well, thanks for joining me.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's an enjoyable talk. We talked a lot before the podcast. I'll probably be talking a lot after the podcast. So with that being said, everyone, I'm Reece from Talk Haunted to Me. Les graced us with his presence here. This was a good interview. So
Thank you.
We're signing off. Have a good night.
All right.